"Hey babe." The person down the line said. "Did you get stuff?" he said. "Oh, you're sorry, there was a line and it just took hours for me to get those sweets," Amy said. "So where are you now?" "I'm just in traffic," Amy lied as she was rushing to put on her clothes. "How long will you be?" he continued to ask. "I will be home as soon as possible," Amy said as she got off the desk and dashed out of the office still on the phone. "My mates are picking me up at 7, he continued. "And you promised to look after the baby." Yes, but I can't do anything about the traffic," Amy said as she waved at me as I was serving sweets. I looked at her and her ass. I just smiled. "She's so beautiful," I said to the customer as she was confused. "What?" the customer said. "Oh, sorry, I was thinking about someone," I said as I passed the customer the sweets. "Here you go." "Thank you," she said as she was the last customer of the day as Amy dashed out of the shop and flagged down a taxi. I then began to chase after her. "Where are you going?" I said as I opened the door. "I have to go home to my husband and kid," Amy said as I got a little disappointed inside. "Oh," I said. "But didn't that mean anything?" I said as Amy was getting to the back of the taxi. "It did, but I can't just leave my husband of many years," she said as she slammed the door closed and the taxi began to drive off. "I love you," I bellowed as the taxi had driven off. Amy put up a heart sign as she agreed. She then wrote down her phone number on a piece of paper and chucked it at me. "Call me," she shouted. I rushed over and picked the piece of paper. I looked at the number as I shoved it into my pocket. I couldn't believe everything was moving so fast. I turned around and went back into my shop as I had turned the open sign to close. There was no one in my shop as I looked at the clock. It was getting late. "I better head home," I said to myself as I began to tidy up. Suddenly someone came through the door. "Sorry, we are closed," I said as I was handling the broom. "Gee," they said as I turned around. "Amy?" I said as I was shocked and confused. She then locked the door behind her. "My husband can wait," she said as she came over and kissed me on the lips. "That was the best sex I have had in ages," she continued to say as she pushed me onto the counter. "Let's do it again." "Wow, calm down baby," I said as I undid my pants and dropped the broom. We then proceeded to have sex once again. We lasted long into the night as we had a lot of passion. It was amazing. "Oh, I said as I ejaculated everywhere. "I haven't seen that amount of cum in years," Amy said as her tits were jiggling up and down. "It must have been hours as we fell onto the floor." "Oh, I said as Amy hit her head on the counter. She then laughed. I suddenly fell asleep as I was getting tired from all the action. The hours went by as all of a sudden there was a knock at the store door. I woke up and quickly threw onto my clothes. "Oh shit," I said as I couldn't believe someone would be knocking on my store door at this time of day. I got up and walked over to the door as Amy dashed to the back room. I opened the door to find out it was the police. "Hello," the officer said. "How can I help, officer?" "Yes, we just got a report of a missing person and this was the last place she was located." "I see, officer, but no one else is here," I said as he nodded his head. "Well, you wouldn't mind having a look around then," he said as I turned around to see the blanket still on the floor. Yes, I'm not hiding anything," I said as I then kicked the blanket behind the counter. The officers came flooding in. They began searching through the shop to make sure I wasn't hiding anything illegal. "You are wasting your time, officers. If you have nothing to hide then you wouldn't mind us doing this," he continued to say. "Well, just don't make a mess," I said as suddenly there was a noise from the back room. The officers dropped what they were holding as they then dashed into the back room to find Amy hiding under the table. "You!" the officer shouted at her. She looked at him as I came and saw the chaos. "I have never seen that girl in my life," I said as Amy was getting out from under the table. She looked at me confused. "What are you doing back here?" the officer asked as Amy began to sweat. "Nothing," she said as she began to laugh. "Why are you laughing?" the officer questioned. "Nothing, sir," she said as she got up and got placed in handcuffs. "Do you know how much resources you have wasted?" the officer announced. "I never said I was lost." "Well, try telling that to your husband." "I'm sorry, officer," Amy said as you could see the sorry in her eyes. I was still being asked questions. "How did she get in?" I was asked. "I don't know," I lied as Amy was looking more and more angry at me. "So you are saying you don't know how she got in, so she broke in?" the officer asked. "Yes, I always lock my doors," I said.
"Sarge!" one of the officers shouted as they came in with a blanket. "What is this?" they asked. "It's a blanket," I said. "But why is it in your store?" "I sleep here," I said. The officer nodded. "So you're telling me you own this big store and you sleep inside the store?" "Yes, I do it to save money." "Interesting," the officer said as he bagged the blanket. "Do you mind if we take this down the station?" "Sure," I said as I had nothing to hide. Amy was being handcuffed. She looked at me. "Don't I mean anything to you?" she said. I didn't say anything as I didn't want to get myself in trouble. The officer was still looking at me. "Do you mind coming down the station so we can add more to this statement?" he asked. "I haven't done anything." "I understand that, but we need to know how this woman got into your store if you had locked up." "Oh yes," I said, nodding my head as the officer passed me his card. "Give me a call tomorrow and we can arrange a time for you to go down the station and tell us everything." I took the card and placed it in my pocket. "Yes, yes," I said as all the officers left the store. I began cleaning up as the moon was going down. I better get some sleep before I open up tomorrow, I said to myself as all of a sudden a phone began to ring. I went into the back as I had noticed that Amy had dropped her phone. "Shit," I said as I picked it up and answered it. "Amy?" the voice said. "Hello, who is this?" I asked. "This is Terry," the voice said. "Who is this?" he replied. I began to sweat as I didn't want to reveal my name as he could figure out me and Amy were having an affair. "My name," I said. "My name is Roy." "Okay, Roy," he said. "Where did you get this phone?" he asked. "Well, I just found it on the floor on the street," I said, lying to him. "Oh, okay," Terry said. "Can you return it to this address?" he said as he gave out his address. I took a big breath. "I have to see, sir, I have a very busy day ahead," I replied. "It will just take 2 minutes." Terry continued as I was really struggling with what I should do next. "I have to go," I said as I pretended to fake someone knocking on the door. I then closed the phone as I then threw it against the wall. It broke into 100 pieces. "Fucking cunt," I said under my breath as I shielded my eyes. I then looked at the mess as I grabbed the broom and began to clean up. "I shouldn't have done that," I continued to say as the light was getting brighter and brighter. I put all the pieces I could find and placed them into the bin as I needed to get some sleep. I went into the back as I grabbed a cup of water. "Oh, that is the stuff," I said as I drank the refreshing water. I then looked at the clock. "Oh God, I have to get up in 2 hours," I said as I dropped the cup of water, spilling it all over the floor. "I picked that up in the morning," I said as I closed the door. I jumped onto the floor as I really needed to get some sleep. I placed my head against the pillow that was still on the floor. I closed my eyes as I needed to get some sleep.